Welcome to Gracearchy with Jim Babka. I'm your moderator, Bill Protzmann. This is a show about what rules us. Instead of conflict or force, we propose grace. Tolerance is good, forgiveness is better, but grace is ideal. Grace is empathy and favor for someone who has said or done something we don't like. It's the attempt to understand someone instead of simply condemning them to enemy status. How could this approach solve social problems? And what's the basis for this view? We explore that here on Gracearchy. Our sponsor is a group built around an ethic we admire, the Zero Aggression Principle. Check out the Zero Aggression Project at www.zeroaggressionproject.org. Today we want to ask and answer the question, is everyone stupid? Listener Don D. writes, and I quote, "Why does the public believe in government? The political paradigm of ruler ruled, using force, threats, fraud, even after it has failed historically in their lifetime. This belief is not logical. In fact, it ignores all of the evidence. What do we call this type of belief? A superstition. I used to ask myself constantly when seeing people act irrationally, self-destructively, what were they thinking? Then one day it hit me. They are not like me. They don't think. They don't prepare by researching, forming a strategy, and rehearsing it. This is their normal mentality. They are not proactive, only reactive, letting whatever happens happen and calling the results luck, fate, or life. It is for them because they made a choice to not think ahead or think at all in most cases." End quote. So, Jim, are voters stupid?
No, they're busy. And they don't necessarily have all the same life experiences that you have, and they haven't necessarily chosen to think about all the things that you've chosen to think about. And I think there's a perfectly sensible explanation, comes from the field of public choice theory and economics, for why this is the case. It's called rational apathy.
Hold on a second. Rational apathy?
There you go. There you go.
Another
I was just about to
oxymoron,
say,
right?
every time I say this, people do that. Like, what? Apathy
Right?
is not rational. Okay.
What? Okay, so tell us.
I guarantee that if I spent time talking to anybody in earshot, I could do it with you right now. I could find something that you know you should be doing something about, you know you care about, that you're not doing what you should, that you're not investing the time that you should be putting into it. It could be a diet-related issue. It could be finances. It could be the state of the world around you. It could be some issue or problem or matter with your family. I mean, the list is endless. There's things you should or could do, and you know what they are, that you just aren't getting around to it.
So rational, I know what they are. Apathy, I don't do it.
Yes, and you do. Some of this comes not just because of the trade-off of time, but also because of a sense of powerlessness. You feel like you can't change things.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
like I can't fix the war in Ukraine or whatever.
Right, and this is a key factor in why people don't care about politics, because it's not something they actually feel they have a great deal of control over. There's way too many issues to fight, and the odds are stacked against me. I will probably lose in every one of these instances. And if I win, so what? What do I gain? Like if I win on one particular political battle and we save a dime, a nickel, a quarter, or a dollar for every week or month or year, was it really worth my trouble to have gone through it in the first place and consider all the other losses that I've accrued? So I think a lot of people make a decision right off the bat that politics isn't worth their time.
But that's tough, because if you happen to be a believer, for example, let's just take a class of people who have a faith practice, and the faith practice encourages them to want to make good change. I mean, how do you reconcile that with rational apathy?
Again, it's just a matter of people placing their priorities where they're at. I think that most people, most of the time, are doing the best with what they've got. Now, do they believe in superstitions? Yes. I mean, our Don in writing us is right that the state is one of the ultimate superstitions. The idea that there's some magic group of people that by waving the wand of legislation, they can change the world, right? I mean, can I solve the problem of obesity by having a vote that we will weigh people differently so that gravity doesn't make them appear to be as heavy.
No, dude, all you got to do is limit the amount of sugar that can be put into a soda and how much of it you can buy at the convenience store. Don't you know?
And that'll, they did, and we've done that, right? And we have the result, right? And I'm even sitting in front of you a little bit too obese as I'm looking at myself on screen right now. So I'm saying to you, like, there is the idea that the state is like this great savior, this great protector. Like, everybody instinctively, this is a normal pattern of human conversation, is the government ought to do this, or there ought to be a law, or we need a program, or why isn't the government doing something? Like, this is the assumption that comes with so many of the social problems we have in front of us. And it's based on a superstition that some hierarchical structure, some sense of experts, they have this ability that the rest of us mere mortals don't have, and they can solve the problems for us. We don't actually have to do the lifting. But the structure of grace, which is our number one topic on this show, is very, very different. It says that every one of us is responsible first for ourselves, and then for the people that are immediately around us and in our care. And those are the places where we should be focusing the majority of our attention. And even in those cases where we're running into social problems, the solutions exist right at home and right in our community. We don't want to send it off to the state capital, or worse, the national capital. We want to deal with it with our neighbors and family and friends right here at home.
Now you're speaking my language, because I'm in an area at home. Well, theoretically, I'm in an area at home where I have influence, right? And if anybody's had teenagers, you'll know exactly what I mean.
Yeah.
You hope you've done your work. But I can theoretically influence the people who are closest to me.
Yes. And in fact, I'm going to say that while what I'm about to suggest, I'm just going to say up front, is just as hard as political change, if not harder, but it's a heck of a lot more effective. And it actually deals with you as a finite human being and the real capacities and powers you truly have. And that is, we're going to do something here together, Bill. We're going to play something called the imitation game. Okay?
I'm going to guess this has no winners or losers, right?
No, there's nothing but winners. Okay? If you play the imitation game, you win. Okay? Not everybody is going to want to play with you. Okay? But don't consider that a loss. Just move on and play the game with someone else. Because when you play the game, you always win. And I'm going to tell you what the prize is at the end of the game. Okay? All right, let me lay just a tad bit of groundwork and explain what the theory is here.
Sure.
I happen to believe, I agree with the anthropologist, the literary critic, whatever you want to call him, Rene Girard, that desires are caught. We imitate the desire of others, but we gain those desires that we have. I'm not talking about your needs. If you don't like broccoli, you can that's organic and natural. You might not like broccoli. Okay. Broccoli's pretty good, but you may not like it. Okay. The need that you have to breathe, the need that you have to feed yourself, those are not desires. I'm talking about, why do you have to drive a certain car? Why do you go and listen to certain music?
Yeah.
What are your tastes in the arts? What are your tastes in shows? What are your tastes in things that you chose to attach value to? And this is not a minor matter. Like, we could say, well, okay, whatever, Jim, so what? What's the point? But our entire economy is structured this way. Okay. A dollar has no intrinsic value to it, and it does none of the things you need it to do, whether it's feed you, clothe you, or put a roof over your head, or transport you to a location. It doesn't do any of the basic functions that we need. It doesn't provide healthcare. It doesn't do anything. It's a medium of exchange, and it's recognized as having a certain value, and we all work and pursue it. And then we trade. So when you and I engage in a trade, right, I give you worthless pieces of green paper in exchange for you're selling apples, because I want to have apples. Okay. Because at that moment, I value your apple more than I value my green paper. But you, who have an abundance of apple, value my green paper more than you value apples, because you have something else you want to buy. Okay. This is called, in economics, is called subjective value. The value is subjective. There's no objective value to that apple. There's no objective value to that dollar. What the value is relative to us. You have an abundance of apples. I have an abundance of dollars. I'm hungry and want an apple. You have other things you want to do. So you want $1, and then you can exchange and go get the things you need.
So do you desire the apple?
I do desire the apple in that particular case. Okay.
Gotcha.
Now, This is subjective value, but it applies the way we attach value to things. That, why do you need a particular hat? Like, if you could get a pair of tennis shoes, why do you need to get designer shoes? Right? And there's nothing wrong with this. I pass no judgment on somebody wanting to buy a very expensive car or a very expensive whatever. None. Every one of us, though, has some luxury items in our life that we've chosen to pursue, things that matter to us, concerts we've gone to, whatnot. You originally, at some point, had a model that kind of taught you that is the thing to like. Okay? And even if you want to assume for a moment, it would be absurd, by the way, because we've been imitating from the time we were very little. It's how we learned how to talk. It's how we learned how to do a bunch of different things. Even if you want to assume that isn't something that you do, that every one of your decisions, you sit down with a spreadsheet and you do a cost-benefit analysis. Yes, tonight we decided to have fish for the following analytical reasons, right? Even if you do that, you still have some degree of this in place. And I will say it this simply. What you are or what you're spending your time thinking about, or more directly, the things that are coming out of your mouth, are a function of who you spent your time with, what you spent your time doing, and what you spent your time thinking about with them.
I can get with that. I know plenty of people who are repeaters. They pick up anything that seems to align with their particular paradigm of living, and they will repeat it chapter and verse ad nauseum.
This is why churches want you to come every Sunday. And if you're a fundamentalist, they want you to come Wednesday too. Okay? It's that repetition of the idea that's being instilled, and it's that community of people that you're joining together with and doing it. So those associations and the repetition of those ideas help remind you of what it is that you believe and value. Okay? And because you chose to spend your time, here's a metaphysical fact, because you chose to spend your time at church, you by extension did not choose to spend that same amount of time in front of your television, sleeping, at the bar with a friend, or out mowing your lawn. Okay? There were choices that had to be made. So now you're going to be thinking about the same things with that group of people, and you're going to have conversations about the things that you have in common with those people, and even the things that they introduced that are new to that conversation. You're going to be thinking about the things that they've introduced new that you hadn't thought about before, and it's going to impact how you go out and live your life. It's going to choose how it's going to reprogram you.
And This is only by imitation. This is happening.
This is imitation. This is us catching the thoughts and values and aspirations of others. Okay. It's nothing. There's no sin or crime in this. This is that literally being human. This is how it works.
Yes. That's how we learn, as you pointed out.
Okay. So now we're going to play the game, and I want to harness that power. Okay. So I'm going to ask you to be a little bit of a surrogate of the audience here. I want everyone listening here to sit down and list 10 people you spend the most time talking to about things other than commerce. Now, I use the word commerce on purpose because you go to a certain place and you work with people, and maybe you don't have much social contact with them. I want you to think about the people that are outside of that bubble, the people that you can voluntarily choose to associate with.
Okay. Right? Yep.
10 of those people that you associate with. I want you to get a list of 10 of those people. And you can do this when the broadcast ends, or you can pause the broadcast and sit down and make the list right now.
Oh, I can do this real quick.
All right. Now,
it's actually easy.
I want you to cross off. This is the step 2. I want you to cross off the names that you happen to be related to. Unless they are outside your household completely, and you simultaneously routinely do things that close friends would do, such as golfing, fishing, going to the bar together, whatever. Okay. So what I'm avoiding here is I don't want the people that you live with to be one of the people.
Yes.
This is somebody that you get together with socially. And I don't want you to pick somebody, if you're going to pick a relative, I want it to be the kind of relative you would go out and do fun stuff with. You consider this relative a friend.
Got it. Okay. I finished crossing them off.
You cross them off. Okay. Just how many names do you have left?
I've got 9 left.
Good for you. Okay. Now I'm going to make this might be the hardest part, because I'm going to ask you to pick 2 of the remaining people whose company you enjoy the most. Don't tell me who they are. I don't want the rest of them to feel bad.
Right.
Okay. But you just pick the 2.
Okay. I gotcha.
Okay. Now I want you to play the imitation game. I want you to go spend time with those people. I want you to make a concerted effort to spend time with those people. Here is what's going to happen. Here's how you're both going to win. I want you to set out to change their mind about something, but I want you to set out to do it simply by spending time with them and telling them what you think and believe about things. And then, like referencing Dwayne Lester in a previous episode, asking them what they think about those same things and sharing your views. That's all I want you to do. I don't want you to try to hard sell them. I don't want you to get nuts and pushy. I just want you to make sure you don't avoid the conversation about the thing that you're looking to change your mind about. In this case, about the government. Okay. Be as libertarian as you are. Don't be mean libertarian. Don't be overbearing libertarian. Don't be pushy libertarian. But allow those conversations to develop naturally. Say what you have to say. Move on to other interesting things and leave it go. Make sure in the midst of those conversations, you heard what they had to say. Can you agree to do that?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, it's really probably not any surprise to know that the two people that I picked are both people with whom I've engaged in that very conversational process for years now.
Okay, so now you're going to win in two ways, and they're going to win in two ways. You ready? If you do this for a consistent period of time, I don't know how long it's going to take in each case. Every human being is different. Two things are going to happen. One, they're going to change their mind about the issue you care about. And two, you ready for this? Here's the bonus. This is the big bonus. You're going to change your mind about something.
Yes, that's true, because I have.
You're going to know something you didn't know before.
Yes.
You're going to gain some new insight or knowledge, and your life is going to be changed because they have something to offer you too. And because you were open to having this conversation with them, they contagiously caught your ideas and you caught theirs. If you both end up having both of these victories, you did it right.
Now I want to ask both of them, hey, did this happen?
Yes. And it's the way that the dynamic for how this works is that because you were both spending time thinking about something, perhaps for the first time, and you're hearing things in new ways, or you leave, Bill, this person that you're thinking that you've been speaking to, and you think of a new way or a new argument or a new book or some new way of sharing your values with them. Again, in a non-threatening, fairly low-key, I'm just your friend kind of way. By the way, if you give somebody a book, you know what the obligation is that you have?
Yeah. It's not pretty.
You have to agree to read their book.
Yeah.
So always think about what you're imposing on them and make sure that you're willing to do the same thing back. But if you play the game fairly, if you play the game with fairness, you'll change. Now, I want to tell you a quick story. A friend of mine, very good friend of mine, somebody you're aware of, I don't want to give out his name right now, had a friend named Brad. When he hears this, he's going to know exactly who he is. And for years, he talked to Brad. He would run into Brad at parties. They wasn't close friends with Brad, but Brad and him would always gravitate towards each other at the parties that they would attend. So let's say he sees Brad maybe 3 times a year. I don't know what the exact number was anymore. But Brad ended up, Brad was in a very set place politically. But when he talked to my libertarian friend, Brad changed his mind. And the way that my friend knew was he arrived at an event and they were at a party together. And Brad said flat out, I've been thinking about what you had to say. And I think that I still believe we need the government to do this particular thing. But before it acts, it should always ask the question, what is the way that we can minimize the amount of force that we use in this particular case? Holy cow. Like if that was the way we started all of our political discussions with people who believe in the actions happening around, can you see how much more dramatic the change would be?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
My friend was at a party. They talked about other things at the party. Okay. He wasn't trying to preach. He just was sharing what he thought in a low-key way that was attractive enough to Brad that Brad, every time he came to the party, the two of them kind of ended up together for at least a period of time at that party, as you move around, talking to him. And these conversations had an impact on him. The bad news, by the way, is all this was undone by Donald Trump, but that's another story for another day.
But that's okay. And it does demonstrate the answer to the question, is everyone stupid? Because the answer is not everyone is stupid.
No. And I would encourage my friend Don to go through this exercise And make sure that you're not overbearing. Make sure that you're fair. Make sure you're the kind of person who's doing is more listening than talking. Be honest about what you think, but do it in a kind way. And if someone says, hey, I need you to read a book, or I've got something I want to share with you, you're going to have to do the same thing back. You're going to have to reciprocate in the same fashion you want and hope they will. But if you're willing to invest yourself in two people, they'll change and you'll change and you'll get something out of the deal.